Welcome to the Egglewoods Variety Show. Don't ask what it's about, because I don't know. I just do whatever I feel like doing, and hopefully it makes somebody smile. Hello friends, new and old. Welcome to the Egglewoods Variety Show. Welcome to the first edition of the Egglewoods Variety Show. I am your host, Sam Egglewoods, and I'm here today to present an idea that I had to you. And this is an idea that I think, in the right hands, could be something that is a bit of a cultural reset, something that I think could make absolute oodles of money, something that any film studio would be, an idea that any film studio would be lucky to have, and to lucky to have me on board to back and to creatively direct, to be at the helm of, if you will. And here's the idea. I'm going to rewind a little bit. I'm going to take you back a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't had your water today, here's your reminder to drink some. So a couple of weeks ago, I'm at a garage sale that I just kind of happened to stumble upon in my neighborhood. And at this garage sale, they have for sale the first 3 Toy Story movies on Blu-ray. So obviously I bought them, and I watched them, then I watched the 4th one on Disney+. And before we get to the idea, in a general sense, kind of in a life sense, I was really inspired by these movies. You know, there's a lot, I know they're children's movies, they're old animated kids movies, but there is so much there in terms of things that we as people could learn, you know, from these inanimate object characters, you know. So I'd like to start off by just acknowledging kind of the impetus for the idea, the source for the idea, the inspiration for the idea, if you will. It was absolutely, without question, watching the Toy Story movies. This idea does not exist without Disney Pixar's Toy Story quadrilogy of films. So, here's the idea itself. What's one of the most popular things right now that there is in cinema? One of the most popular concepts that there is right now in cinema? I'll give you a second to take a guess or two. It's the multiverse. The multiverse is a concept, you know, kind of being very popularized by Marvel right now, beginning in a show. I think it was Loki was the first show that Marvel had, as of late at least, that introduced the concept of the multiverse. Spider-Man No Way Home was one of the most profitable films probably ever. Made an incredible amount of money, made a real cultural impact as well, did Spider-Man No Way Home. We're already starting to see, you know, other movies kind of take hints from the MCU with the multiverse concept. There's a movie that came out recently, I believe Everyone, Everywhere, All at Once, or something of that nature, which again is tapping into multiversal inspiration. Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is coming out soon. Multiverse is kind of a big market right now. A lot of interest around the multiverse and parallel realities is being generated right now thanks to Marvel. So what if we took these beloved films, these absolute masterpieces in cinema, every single one of them, and I'm not joking when I say that. What if we took the beloved Toy Story universe, and what if we said that there is a Toy Story multiverse? And what if we said that there is a different branch of reality? Several different branches of reality, but what if we chose to hone in on one of them? Then what if in the one that we hone in on, a different inanimate object comes to life when there's no humans around? In Toy Story, it's toys. When Andy's not around, when the parents aren't around, when no one's around, these toys come to life. But what if we have a universe where when there's no people around and when there's no humans, you know, with eyes on the object, what if we have, rather than toys, what if we have lighters come to life while nobody is around, while nobody is looking? I'll let you marinate on that for a second. Let that sink in, if you will. And that's the heart of my pitch. Lighter story. A multiversal branch stemming off from the Toy Story reality, where lighters are the object that come to life. And I think this is an idea that is just absolutely ripe with potential, both character potential, storytelling potential, dramatic potential, and I'll get into all of that in a second. So one of the most interesting things I think there is behind this idea is the personalities of the individual lighters. So for example, in Toy Story, we see Buzz Lightyear in the first Toy Story. In the first one, we see Buzz Lightyear. He believes he is an actual space ranger. And even once he becomes aware of the fact that he's not and he's just a toy, he still retains a lot of the characteristics that a space ranger would have. The little green army people, little green army statues, even though they know they're toys, they still very much behave like army soldiers, etc., etc. What's the dog's name? Bullseye. Bullseye, Woody's horse. Bullseye behaves much like an animal would behave, even though he's a toy. So I had the same thought that maybe we could do the same thing with lighters. Maybe the lighters all have distinct personalities based on how they look. And I have a few from, my own personal collection here. And we've got a couple different kinds of lighters here. So this is the first one I showed off here. And this one has a pretty fancy design on it. This design is called Houndstooth. It's got a pretty fancy pattern on it. This is something that you might see on like a fancy sweater or, like a handbag or something like that. So this lighter could be very much kind of a lighter that's a little posh, a little bougie, that carries itself like it's better than the other lighters because it's got a fancy pattern on it. If you had, I don't have one on me, but if you were to have like a plain blue lighter, that lighter could be the sad one. It's always feeling blue. It's always feeling down on itself. If you have a yellow lighter, which again, I don't have, but if you were to have a yellow lighter, that one could be, like the sun. Like it's just bursting with positivity and beaming and hyper all the time. Things like that. I have another example I could show you here. This lighter, to me at least, this is a very sensual, and kind of suggestive pattern. So you could have a lighter like this be kind of like a sexy, seductive kind of lighter. And then, what I think is really interesting is all these lighters that I've shown you so far are just kind of generic Bic lighters, with different colors and designs on them and whatnot. But what if you take a lighter like this, for example? What if you take a lighter with a little bit of power to it? With a little bit of in it, a little bit of kick in it. What does this lighter's personality look like? And then I got this one too. This I think is a family member's. This is an old lighter designed after a pack of cigarettes, after a pack of Winstons, and it's not functional. I thought it wasn't functional, but apparently it is. This lighter, being that it's based on a rather old brand of cigarette, this lighter could be a lighter that's kind of a bit of a gentleman, if you will, a bit of an old soul, if you will. I think there is an unlimited amount of potential as far as what could these lighters' personalities look like. What about like a barbecue lighter? What about like a cooking lighter? One of the ones with the long noses? What are they like? How do they behave? Or maybe they're like some kind of chef lighter because they're used in the kitchen commonly. I don't know. I think there's lots of potential there. But I think the biggest storytelling potential comes from the mortality or lack thereof of the lighters. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that in just a second. So I'm going to once again reference Toy Story here, particularly the second film, Toy Story 2, where Jessie is introduced. Jessie is a very interesting character. In the second movie, at least, I feel like in further movies her role was a little diminished, and I wasn't a fan of that. But in the second one, we learned something big about Jessie, and through that, we learned something about the universe as a whole that we kind of knew already, but we see it, Jessie is a great example of it. That being a toy's sense of self-worth comes from whether or not they are fulfilling their intended purpose, which in Toy Story is being played with, by children and being enjoyed by a kid. A lighter's purpose, putting it rather generally and broadly, is to light things. So what happens when a lighter can no longer light? What kinds of lighters can lose the ability to light? I know that sounds like a bit of a strange thing to say, and you're probably scratching your head a bit. Allow me to explain. So let's take this first lighter, for example, Mr. Fancy Pants lighter, right? This is a Bic lighter. Bic. You see it right there. Bic is a very popular brand of lighter. And what's nice about Bic lighters is you can get them anywhere. You can get them in a size like this or a smaller size. They're cheap, they're easily accessible, they're easy to use. It's just a great brand of lighter. But once a Bic lighter runs out of juice, you hear that? I don't know if you can, but it's got plenty of juice in there. Plenty of fire time in there. But once a Bic lighter runs out of fluid, there is no way to refill it. It is done. It is likely to be thrown in the trash. So maybe a Bic lighter in the lighter story universe, maybe a Bic lighter knows this, and maybe with a Bic lighter, they have to live their lives a little differently. They have to have their mentality built a little differently, because a Bic lighter knows that there will come a day when it has reached the end of its lifespan and it has outlived its usefulness. And it's bound to be thrown away or discarded on the sidewalk somewhere, because it is finite. But then, you take a lighter, like this one, or you take, a lighter like this one. This one's actually an X-Men 2 movie prop. This isn't the actual prop, it's a recreation of it, but it's the character of Pyro. It's their lighter. And in the universe, this lighter could be like a big shot Hollywood lighter, because it thinks that, because it was in a movie, whatever. But point I'm getting at is there are some lighters that are not finite. There are some lighters that you can refill, like a Zippo lighter, like a fancier lighter that is intended to be kind of used and be a long-term investment that you make. You could refill it, you could put more fuel in it, you could put another cotton ball in it and get that wet again. Point is, it does not have to reach the end of its life cycle in the same way that a sexy Bic lighter would. So, what does that look like? If you have these two lighters, right? Let's say these are our two main characters here, Mr. Hollywood and Ms. Fancy, these two lighters. What are their ideological differences, being that one lighter has a lifespan and one does not? Being that one will someday outlive its usefulness and the other will not. It could be used over and over until there is no more lighter fluid in the world. So what do the conversations between these two lighters look like? What do the differing philosophies look like? What do the differing mindsets look like? What kind of story potential does that make? Now, to any film studios that may be seeing this, Pixar especially, if you're out there, if you're listening to this, here's my question. How valuable is this concept to you? How valuable is this world to you? Think about it. Because right now, as it stands, the concept and the world is about all I have for this idea, everything that I just explained to you. I don't have a storyboard. I don't have any kind of plot points thought up. I don't have any sequel plans or any trilogy plans, any franchise plans. I just have a concept, but I think it's a good concept, and I think it's a concept that, like I said in the beginning, in the right hands will make some money. Will make some impact. Will be a bit of a kind of a cultural phenomenon in the same way that Toy Story was. The same thing that Toy Story was, for children and for parents of children. The same thing Lighter Story could be for all kinds of different people. Cigarette smokers, people, absolute hell spawns that smoke weed. Who would do that? People that work in food and that have to... I used to work at a job where I had to light up little cans of Sternos to burn food, So there's lighters, professional lighters that are used in kitchens, right? So this could speak to a tremendous amount of people. It could resonate with a tremendous amount of people. Lost lighters. Where do lost lighters go? We've all lost lighters. Stolen lighters. We've all stolen someone's lighter by accident. How does that feel? What I brought to you today, my friends, new and old, is a concept, is a pitch, is a seed, is a spawn. It is not a final product. It is not something that I'm ready to put on its feet. It is just something that I think has unlimited, sky-high potential. And I think if you are any kind of executive at Sony, Pixar, Disney, A24, the Safdie brothers, if I am you, I am pouncing on this opportunity. I am going to the description of this video, I am finding this kid's email, and I'm emailing him right away, him being me, and finding out how I can get in on this. All you gotta do is get in touch, and we can talk. We can talk. I'm sure you have ideas, we can brainstorm, it'll be fun. All that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I have been Sam Eglowitz. This has been the Eglowitz Variety Show. This has been my pitch for lighter story. I hope you've taken heed. Thank you for being here. If you enjoyed your time here on my channel today, consider leaving a like on the video. It's free, takes about 2 seconds, and does a lot for me. If you enjoyed what you see so much that you'd like to see some more, you could press the subscribe button, and whenever I upload new content, you will be notified of said content. And if you decide that you no longer want to be notified, you could always change your mind, so you might as well just do it. Anyway, I don't have an outro song yet, so I'm going to try to make one up here. We'll see what happens. This has been the Eglowitz Variety Show. Don't ask what it's about, cause I still don't know. Hopefully you don't realize I'm singing out of key. We'll workshop that a little bit. Thank you for being here.